Hello all, I'm Marin. Welcome to another reading vlog. This is going to be my second vlog where I focus solely on reading a duology in its entirety and vlog the experience. The first duology that I vlogged was the King of Scars duology by Leigh Bardugo, so I will link that one up in the cards if you'd like to go back and watch. But in this vlog, I'm going to be tackling a series that has gotten quite a lot of hype and buzz, starting a couple years ago when the first book came out and then continuing last year when the sequel was released. And I believe there is a prequel that just came out as well in this series, but I will not be reading that in this vlog. I want to kind of see my thoughts on the first two books before I decide whether I'm going to read anything else. But I will be reading the Letters of Enchantment duology by Rebecca Ross. So the first book in the series is Divine Rivals, and the sequel is Ruthless Vows. So those are the two that I will be tackling in this vlog. I have read a duology from this author previously. I read the Elements of Cadence duology, which was A River Enchanted and A Fire Endless, and I enjoyed that duology, but I didn't absolutely love it. This one, however, is getting a lot of hype and people seem to really love this one, so I'm very curious to see what I will think about this. This one, I believe, is geared more YA-ish, and I don't read that much YA anymore, but because I have enjoyed a book series from this author before, I did want to give this one a go. Side note, if you have read the new release, which is right here, and I can't think of what the name is, please tell me if it's worth a read based on whatever my rating's gonna be for this one. So I obviously don't have like many preconceived notions. I know that this has something to do with like magical letters going back and forth between two enemies, because I believe this is enemies to lovers or something like that. So that's all I know. I know that I like her writing style, and I know that I like how she builds her fantasy worlds, but I have no idea really what this is about other than what I've already mentioned. So we're gonna find out together in this vlog. I will do my best to avoid spoilers as much as possible, but my guess is that when I am talking about the sequel, I am probably going to have to reference some things that happened in the first book, but I will make note of that on the screen so you can move past that and avoid spoilers if you would like to. So without wasting any more time, let's dive into the Letters of Enchantment duology by Rebecca Ross.
Macmillan Audio presents Divine Rivals, written by Rebecca Ross, read for you by Rebecca Norfolk and Alex Winfield.
All right, all, I am like 57% of the way through Divine Rivals. So as I've already mentioned, I have read a duology from this author before. I would say this one has some very similar vibes to the Elements of Cadence duology in terms of the setup with the gods and goddesses and just her lyrical style of writing. She definitely has more lyrical prose, but I'm gonna go ahead and read the little synopsis here because it does a decent job of like summing up what this book is about. So it says, when two young rival journalists find love through a magical connection, they must face the depths of hell in a war between gods to seal their fate forever. So we are following Iris and Roman. They are journalists for a newspaper. At the start, they are competing for the same position, and Roman ends up earning that position. Iris has a lot going on in her personal life with her family. So as a result of losing this position, she decides to become a war correspondent for a different newspaper, and she heads out to the front. Roman then follows her. So they are both in the same place at this point in the book, but I'm going to go ahead and just read this. It says, after centuries of sleep, the gods are warring again, but 18-year-old Iris Winnow just wants to hold her family together. Her mother is suffering from addiction and her brother is missing from the front lines. Her best bet is to win the columnist promotion at the Oath Gazette. To combat her worries, Iris writes letters to her brother and slips them beneath her wardrobe door, where they vanish, into the hands of Roman Kit, her cold and handsome rival at the paper. When he anonymously writes Iris back, the two of them forge a connection that will follow Iris all the way to the front lines of battle. For her brother, the fate of mankind, and love. So this is like enemies to lovers of a sort. I wouldn't even really call them enemies. They were just rivals for a position, and Roman had certain personality quirks that Iris didn't like, so I wouldn't necessarily call them enemies, even though they are describing this as an epic enemies to lovers fantasy. I don't think that's really the case. I don't consider them enemies at any point. But I am enjoying this so far. So we are now, as I said, over halfway through the book. Roman has decided to also become a war correspondent due to some other things that happen in his personal life. Iris does not know that Roman is the person who's been writing her letters. Roman does know that it is her. So we have that kind of hanging over their heads a little bit. I am sure that we're going to get that reveal here. He has already been trying to think of how he can tell her that he is the one that she's been writing to, so I'm assuming that's going to happen decently quickly. We don't have a ton of the book left. I know that this book ends on a cliffhanger, so my thinking is that I will be spoiler free for this one, but when it comes time for me to read Ruthless Vows, which is the second one, I am going to give some spoilers. So I'll put like notations of that on the screen so you can fast forward or whatever as you wish. But I know this ends on a cliffhanger. I'm curious to see how everything is going to kind of come together and obviously where we're going with this. So there's a lot of mythology in this book, much like the Elements of Cadence series. We are getting the backgrounds of the gods and goddesses that ruled in this world. To an extent, we're really only focusing on two because they are the two gods and goddesses that are like warring right now, and they have a personal history, which is what is causing this battle or whatever. So that's my kind of thoughts on this book. I'm enjoying it so far. I wouldn't say that I'm loving it. It's not a new favorite by any means at this point, but I'm having a good time with it, and it definitely reminds me of the Elements of Cadence duology. So I am hoping to have this done today. Today is Wednesday. I have an extra hour in my day because I don't have a kindergarten class today, so I'm hoping I can knock out the remainder of this. The audiobook says I have 4.5 hours left, but that is regular speed, and I'm listening at 1.8, so I will have a little bit less than that, so hopefully I can finish this off. But there you go. That is my initial thought on Divine Rivals. So far it's going well, and I'm curious to see what's going to happen next. All right, all. I did finish Divine Rivals yesterday. I read like the last, 10-ish pages physically, and I read the bulk of it at work. So I am going to give this 3.5 stars, which is the same rating that I gave the first book in her Elements of Cadence series, which was called A River Enchanted. While I really liked the writing, I liked the plot, the whole idea behind it, the mythology, all of that was very well done. Her writing is very beautiful. I did not have the emotional connection to either Iris or Roman, which is what I need to be able to give this a 4-star. So I'm going to put it at 3.5. So this does end with a reveal and a cliffhanger. So it definitely sets up the second book, makes you want to continue the series, which I would have done regardless, even if I wasn't doing a duology vlog. I would have continued this series because I do really like her writing, and I am curious to see where the story's going. So ultimately, we are dealing with this war between two gods, and this is a spoiler, but it's going to set up the second book, so heed the spoiler on the screen, I guess. At the end of the first book, Roman is captured, I guess, for lack of a better word, by Dacre, the god of the underworld. And so he is now going to become a war correspondent for Dacre's side, which is what's gonna move this book along, okay? So Iris is back in her hometown. She is still working for the same newspaper that she was working for in the first book. She is telling the true story of what's happening at the front lines. And now we have Roman, who is offering Dacre's quote-unquote side of the story. So he is spinning this to make Dacre sound better than he actually is, because he is definitely the aggressor in this war. So that's kind of your setup for Ruthless Vows. I'm going to go ahead and read the synopsis for this book. Again, spoilers, so if you were wanting to read this without knowing what's happening, hopefully you are not watching this part, you're just fast forwarding. But this says, 2 weeks have passed since Iris Winnow returned home bruised and heartbroken from the front, but the war is far from over. Roman is missing and the city of Oath continues to dwell in a state of disbelief and ignorance. When Iris and Addie are given another chance to report on Dacre's movements, they both take the opportunity and head westward once more despite the danger, knowing it's only a matter of time before the conflict reaches a city that's unprepared and fracturing. Since waking below in Dacre's realm, Roman cannot remember his past, but given the reassurance that his memories will return in time, Roman begins to write articles for Dacre, uncertain of his place in the greater scheme of the war. When a strange letter arrives by wardrobe door, Roman is first suspicious, then intrigued. As he strikes up a correspondence with his mysterious pen pal, Roman will soon have to make a decision: to stand with Dacre or betray the god who healed him. As the days grow darker, inevitably drawing Roman and Iris closer together, the two of them will risk their very hearts and futures to turn the tides of the war. So obviously, there you go. There's your summary. You can come back now if you were trying to avoid spoilers, and I will do my best to talk about this one without spoiling too much of the first book. But I am about 10% of the way through according to the audiobook, so I'm not very far into this at all, but I am hoping that I can get a decent amount of this read. So we will see. I think I'm trying to find where I'm at. Okay, I am on page 43. So, here's what I have left. This book is about 50 pages longer than this one. I was able to get this one done in 2 days. I don't know that I'm going to be able to manage that with this one, but we'll just kind of see how it goes. Today is Thursday, so technically I do have 4 days for this vlog, but I would love to be able to squeeze something else in over the weekend to read physically. So we'll just see how it goes. But this is going to be my focus for this vlog, and hopefully this will give me the emotional connection that the first book was lacking. I have heard that this one is more action-packed, so I'm curious to see what all is going to happen. And once I have gotten, I guess halfway through, we'll do a halfway through update, I will let you know my thoughts at that point. So see you then.
Macmillan Audio presents Ruthless Vows, written by Rebecca Ross. Read for you by Rebecca Norfolk and Alex Winfield.
All right, I have made it halfway through Ruthless Vows. I am currently on page 218, which is chapter 31. And we are gearing up towards what is probably going to be some type of last stand type situation between Enva and Dacre's armies. So we are obviously still following Iris and Roman. Here's a little spoiler, but at the end of the first book, Roman was taken by Dacre and now is his war correspondent. So he is writing stories from Dacre's point of view, and he had lost all of his memories, but he was having dreams about his little sister and Iris, and in a chance meeting, Roman and Iris came face to face. Roman has regained his memories and is now hiding that fact from Dacre. However, there's like some limits to how much healing Dacre is willing to give the people that he takes into his army. He holds their pain at bay as long as they are on his side and as long as they basically don't remember who they are. Since Roman now remembers who he is feeling the pain from his wounds that he suffered at the end of the first book. So that's kind of a little aside, I guess, but they are still writing letters back and forth. They start doing that before Roman regains his memories. Iris knows that it is Roman that she is writing to. Roman does not know that it is Iris, and he doesn't know who Iris is at the start. But now at the halfway point, his memory is back. He is actually returning to Oath, which is also where Iris now is again. So she went out back into the field to report on the war, and she is now home. So they are going to be able to reunite at least for one night, but that's kind of where we are. I still feel like I am lacking emotional connection to these characters. It's the same issue that I had with the first book. While I like the story, there's just really nothing to like pull me in and make me feel deeply. So while I like it and I'm having a good time and I'm curious to see where the story's going and how everything is going to be solved, I don't have that emotional connection that would give this a super high rating. So I'm gonna have to look back because I don't remember what I gave A Fire Endless, which was the second book in the first duology that I read by her. So I'm gonna need to look at the rating because I don't remember what it is, but I'm curious if this is going to go the same way. So we'll just kind of see how it goes. Obviously, I have half the book left. My goal is to get this finished today. So I have the audio, which means I can multitask. I will probably play some Sims or do some online jigsaw puzzles, etc. while I finish this off. But I do have right about 200 pages left. So hopefully I can finish this today because I would love to be able to fit in an audio book that I've borrowed from the library that's a really short one and read that tomorrow. So I would love for this to get done today, but obviously we'll play it by ear. But yes, once I have finished this, I will obviously share my thoughts and give you an overall view of the series as a whole, not just necessarily this book. So I will see you then with an update. All right, I have finished Ruthless Vows, and I am going to give this the same rating that I gave Divine Rivals. It's getting a 3.5 stars, and my feelings on this one are very similar as well. I lacked an emotional connection to the characters, and I am not going to be thinking about this book past probably the end of this vlog. And that's how I kind of feel about the series as a whole. I definitely would recommend the Elements of Cadence duology over this one because I liked that one better. I went back and looked and I did give A Fire Endless 4 stars, and this one's obviously getting 3.5. So I just don't think that this series worked for me as well as the other duology did. Now, my thoughts are not all negative because there were things that I did really like about this book. For instance, I really liked the action scenes. I liked the way that they were written. I liked the way that they kept the plot moving forward, and I enjoyed kind of the more life or death look at things because the danger also was a little bit more ramped up in this one, although I never truly felt that anyone was in peril. Even though there's a war going on and a battle between two gods, essentially. I also really liked the way the mythology was further explained and explored. I liked getting the background on the gods and how their magic system works. I thought that was really well written and enjoyed that a lot, which I also very much liked in the Elements of Cadence duology as well. She just does a very good job of creating these like unique mythologies and bringing them to life. So kudos to her on that. I did really like that. I liked watching the characters kind of come of age and grow as people and figure out what they want and what they needed to do to achieve their goals, basically. So that was another thing that I thought was well done. I just found that the romance was not something that I cared about, and I'm not sure why that was. I will say that in the Elements of Cadence duology, we were getting multiple POVs. So not just one couple, we were getting POVs from another couple as well. I don't think that that would have helped here because everyone was kind of going through the same thing. So I don't feel like adding a POV would have helped at all. But I do think that maybe that helped me get to know more people like more in depth and maybe feel a little bit more for them. I'm not really sure, but there was just something that didn't work for me with this or the first book. And ultimately, I feel like this is a good story, but I feel like it could have been better. And I especially was surprised at the fact that I did not feel any emotion throughout any part of these two books, aside from like a general enjoyment of the story. So something happens at the end of this one that I know was supposed to be like an emotional impact, and it just wasn't for me. So that's kind of what I mean in terms of like my lack of connection. It's clear the author wanted me to feel things for these characters, and I just did not do that. So I am giving this again 3.5 stars because there were things that I really did like, but this is not a 4-star book in my opinion. And because of that, I am rounding this down on Goodreads to a 3-star. It just doesn't have the things that I need a book to have in order to earn 4 stars. So that's kind of my thoughts on this. Again, if you're gonna read a duology from Rebecca Ross, I would recommend the Elements of Cadence one, although obviously look into these books and see which one kind of sounds more interesting. They both do have a little bit of something to do with war, sort of. The war is not as battle heavy, I guess, in the Elements of Cadence series. It's more of a conflict of interests, I guess, between these two nations, and less about the gods warring necessarily than this one is. This is clearly a war that was happening because of a god and a goddess and their issue with each other. So yeah, take that into consideration. And again, take my thoughts on this with a grain of salt, because obviously there are people that really loved this series. There are like glowing 5-star reviews for both of these books, and it just was not something that I agree with in this case. So do with that what you may. But I have now finished the Letters of Enchantment series, which I am glad about because this is a series that has been talked about a lot, and I really just wanted to know what it was all about. So I'm glad I read it. Again, it was enjoyable. It just isn't anything that I'm going to be thinking about past this vlog. So that's kind of my overall thoughts. 3.5 stars for both books. And that's gonna bring us to the end because these were the only 2 books that I was talking about in this vlog. So I hope you enjoyed coming along with me as I read the Letters of Enchantment duology by Rebecca Ross. If you did, please leave me a thumbs up. Consider subscribing to my channel if you would like to see more from me. If you made it to the end of this video and would like to leave an emoji to show you were here, you can leave me some sort of like writing inspired emoji, whether it's like a writing utensil, paper, etc., in honor of Roman and Iris's day job as journalists. And I will see you in my next video, which my next vlog is going to be vlogging the Villains duology by V.E. Schwab, which I am really excited about. So I will see you then. Bye, everyone.